Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. Today we will be covering Germany defeating Hungary 2-0. We'll be previewing Argentina, Canada tomorrow. We'll react to the Scotland-Switzerland game finishing in a 1-1 draw. We do a full preview of the Copa America. And make sure you stick around for the end of the show. I'll be giving you my thoughts on Croatia, the Croatia-Albania game, and whether or not Croatia's European Championship is over after dropping points to Albania. Before we start off, I'd like to ask that you like and follow the show. Also, we get a number of questions that come in during the show, so to ensure that your questions get read on the air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net with your questions. This puts your questions at the top of the list so that I can see it, and also really helps grow the show. So again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net. Germany defeating Hungary 2-0 in the knockout stages. That's where we'd have to start off. It was an interesting game, in my opinion. Honestly, to be honest, one of the more boring games at this European Championship, but only because this European Championship has set a high bar in terms of games. Every game has been absolutely amazing, in my opinion. This was rather comfortable, in my opinion. Comfortable victory for Germany from front to bottom, from the minute one to the end. I thought Germany were really the protagonists in the team, and it has not. There has not, besides Germany's opening game against Hungary or against Scotland, every game has had, there's been, despite like the Spain-Croatia game really going one way, Croatia had their opportunities, each game, it's always been like, we've never thought that the other team doesn't have a chance. Everything has came down to the wire, but this game really did not come down to the wire. Definitely not as dominant as Germany were against Scotland, which is hard to replicate that kind of performance because that was just complete and utter domination, and that had a lot to do with how poor Scotland were. They were able to turn around today. We'll discuss that a little bit later on today's show. But I thought it was a professional victory, professional manner how Germany got it done. I thought overall they were set up well throughout the game. You saw Musiala, how tight he is, how brilliant of a player he is. He's a fantastic footballer. Scored the opening goal. Gundogan finished getting the assist on that, and also scoring that second goal. His name being really on the headlines. He never really gets his name is never really on the headlines on the front page of the newspaper, but after having one assist and a goal, I think he'll really get the praise and adulation he deserves. There was a little bit of a question mark on whether or not he should start in this tournament, but he's been absolutely brilliant. He's a brilliant player. He's been a brilliant player for Manchester City during their run of winning Premier Leagues, and he has, replicated that amazing form. Well, he's brought that to the German national team right now. Obviously, I know he played for Barcelona like this past season. I'm just saying, with Barcelona and Manchester City, he's been a really, really good player, and he has brought that form into Germany. But going back to Jamal Musiala, what a brilliant player. In terms of just his ability to control the ball in tight spaces, his touch, the way he can manipulate the ball to do things, it's just unbelievable. How he can play in tight spaces. There's not many players with that. There's actually a very, very few players with that kind of ability. He's absolutely world class, and Germany are very lucky to have him. We know the situation that he could be a German player or he could be an English player. Florian Wirtz also, with the quality he has, I thought he was very, very good in this game as well. I think this German national team is very impressive in the fact that I think Hendrik the Leverkusen player, is the missing piece because he gives you that nastiness in midfield, and he allows Kroos to do the finesse work in terms of being the finesse midfielder, and he'll go in and he'll do all the dirty work. He'll cover up spaces that Kroos can't cover because of the lack of pace. He's physical. He provides a nastiness to the midfield. He's a great complement, and I think the rise of him into this German national team was exactly what they needed, and is part of the reason why they're able to take the next level right now. In my opinion, he's an important part to this German national team. Now, he already got a yellow card in that first game. That's part of the that's part of the issues, not issues, but that's what you get when you have a player that with his kind of profile. You do have that nasty element to him, not dirty necessarily, but physical and aggressive, and not being afraid to stop counters. And he ended up getting that yellow card in the opening game, which means he's another yellow card away from being suspended before the quarterfinals. So that's something they're gonna have to manage. I definitely don't think he's gonna play much in that third group stage game. But yeah, I thought Germany played really well. The thing is, they're very open. And Kimmich and Mittelstadt, they love pushing up the field. They're both attacking fullbacks in this system with that Julian Nagelsmann plays, and they also play a very high line. And this center back partnership, Rudiger and Tah, was not tested yesterday. There was a few times in transition that Varga and Szoboszlai and Salai and this Hungarian national team was able to test them just a little bit in transition. And I thought Tah and Rudiger were absolutely phenomenal. I thought they both were very, very good. Didn't give up much space, didn't get beaten behind. They showed their pace, their recovery, their ability to make last-ditch tackles in pressurized situations. And I talked about them not being tested in that Scotland game and how I want to see them against a team that puts up more of a fight to see, how the center back partnership is. I was impressed with those two. I really was. So in terms of that, good performance. But yeah, Germany, they just need to be a little bit more aware that in transition you're gonna have Mittelstadt and Kimmich attack up the field. In transition, it's gonna be very, very important because Toni Kroos, he's not gonna cover much space as a midfielder. He's not gonna do he's not really gonna stop attacks, especially quick attacks. That's not his game. So Andrik, Tah, and Rudiger, they could be isolated, which could be very, very deadly. And that's something they really need to shore up, because they can't be open against. Now maybe there's a tactical adjustment Nagelsmann will make whenever they do go up against the likes of a France or a Spain or an Italy or so, where they have a system where they have one attacking fullback and they make sure they have three back at this always. Maybe there's some sort of tactical flexibility that Julian Nagelsmann can show, because I think if they play now, you could play this open against Scotland and Hungary and get away with it, because there's not much quality in those two teams to really make you pay. But going up against the France and stuff, I think there has to be some sort of tactical flexibility, because you cannot play with that midfield, with how open they are in midfield. They're not open in midfield, but Toni Kroos, he's not going to provide you much cover. And if you're not getting cover from Toni Kroos, and you can have both of your fullbacks pushed up high in the field, there's going to be a lot of space to take advantage of. So I definitely think against the better teams, they do need to adjust in that manner. I think Kai Havertz, I don't think he's been really that good so far at the European Championship. In my opinion, I think the opening game, he had some moments. He had the assist for that second goal, even though I thought he really could have done better by being able to get a strike off himself and not cutting it back. But that's not to here nor there. It was a decent performance. The second game, he had a good opportunity where he was able to outfight Willy Orban, but it was saved. But apart from that, there was not, a few times the ball got to his feet and the touch was just off. It was a little bit of, we saw his nonchalant character, and I don't know in the long term, is he really that answer for Germany at that 9? You see how Füllkrug was able to play whenever he came in that first game against Scotland. I thought this game is also pretty decent too. I don't know. I think Havertz, there's you get some really good things with him, and you get some not so great things with him, and you kind of have to live with both. But I think again, consistency is going to be important. But just based on performances, I'm talking a little bit about the negatives, but just based on performances, Germany have been the most impressive team at this European Championship so far. The way that they started, they are deadly, and they should be on, everybody's radar in terms of, potential candidates to win it all at this point. With the way that they performed these first two games, it shows all we needed to see is this German national team back, and they've proven they're back. And now they're doing this at a home European Championship. They get to, they're playing the rest of the tournament at home as well. I think they're a deadly, deadly team, and I think it's bad news for the likes of France, Spain, England, and all these Portugal, all these contenders, because Germany are a team not to be reckoned with. They got young talent. They got experience. They got the perfect balance of young talent and experience with the young talent of Havertz, Musiala, Wirtz, and then you have the experience of Rudiger, Neuer, Toni Kroos, Gundogan, a guy like Emre Can off the bench, Thomas Muller off the bench. It's a really, really good, really, really good and talented squad, and yeah. Now, it's going to be tricky for Julian Nagelsmann in terms of resting. Now, there's the age-old dilemma. Do you rest some of your players so that they'll be fit and firing for the opening game of the knockout stages? Or do you go, do you want to keep up the rhythm alive with how they're been playing right now? 2 wins out of 2. You don't want to break the rhythm that they're going into, and you keep, the main 11 in there. It's the age-old dilemma. For me, I think you got to do a little bit of mix and match, because you don't want to break the rhythm and flow that you've created so far. But at the same time, you do got a player like Andrik who's on a yellow. You want to protect some of the players that are on a yellow. It'll be really bad if they miss a game, if they miss the first knockout stage game, because they're playing in a game that truly doesn't matter that much in the fact that they didn't already qualify. Now, I think it's a little bit important that the fact that Switzerland actually dropped points to Scotland. So Germany do have that added value of only needing a point in that final game to win the group. So it does make it easier for Germany to say, we can rest a few players, we go for, we just need a draw. We get that draw, we still win the group. Yeah, I could see that being a possibility as well. But yeah, it's something that Julian Nagelsmann is going to have to be clever with entering that final group stage game against Switzerland. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we're going to discuss Argentina-Canada. We're going to preview the first game of Copa America.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
When we come back, before the break, we discussed Germany defeating Hungary 2-0. we move on to discuss the Argentina-Canada opening game of the Copa America tomorrow. Fascinating opening game. It kicks off at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. You know, there's going to be a full stadium capacity, expected full stadium capacity, which is going to make it a brilliant atmosphere. For y'all know, Mercedes-Benz Stadium holds 71,000 people. And, you know, that's a lot for a soccer game in America. So, yeah, you know, it's going to be an amazing, fascinating game. Interesting to see how Argentina lines up, especially in that midfield. You know, the fact that Enzo and his down season and his injury, he's not going to probably be available. So I think DePaul and McAllister, they're locks. But that third midfield option, it's probably going to be Paredes. Paredes, who's had a good season at Roma. I think he's going to be the one that complements Rodrigo DePaul and Alexis McAllister. So, yeah. For me, that's a good midfield in my opinion. That's a midfield that's going to cause that Canadian national team problems. Now, Argentina are looking to, you know, carry the form that they've had over the past few years. When you look at the fact that they're the defending World Cup champions, they went on a crazy unbeaten run to get to the World Cup. They ended up snapping that unbeaten run in the World Cup, actually, in the opening game to Saudi Arabia. And then they went on to win the tournament and continue another dominant run. Now, they haven't really went on a long unbeaten run again because they lost actually to Uruguay in World Cup qualifiers not a few long ago. So it proved that they're human, I guess. But they did lose to Uruguay 2-0. It was actually at home. This is an Argentina team that's strong all around. This Argentina team that I think is as good as that World Cup team. And I think they have a little bit of a different element to them now. You know, I think Julian Alvarez, you still have his directness, his verticality. I see him starting again. But you have a Lautaro Martinez, in my opinion, that had a horrible World Cup last campaign. But I don't see him replicating that World Cup. He's had a brilliant season at Inter Milan, an absolute brilliant season. You know, led them to the Serie A title. Absolutely phenomenal season by him. I think if he can return to his form for the Argentina national team, scoring 24 goals in 33 matches in Serie A, brilliant player, and a player that should not be slumped on at this World Cup, at this Copa America. But you also have the added element of an Alejandro Garnacho that gives you verticality, directness as well, that can play off Messi. And I think he's kind of like the perfect player if you are late in the game and you are chasing the results, to bring on a guy like him going up against a tired back line. I think he could be very, very deadly. So this Argentina national team has a lot of different ways to go at it. They're also coached by Lionel Scaloni, a brilliant head coach, a more pragmatic head coach in the fact that they sit tight and that they're not afraid to allow the other team to have the ball and to control the game in certain areas. They won't be afraid to be a little pragmatic in certain times. They're not gonna go out from minute one and put crazy men forward, but rather, you know, defend first and then work their way in transition and play with the ball. And they've been brilliant in how they've done it, and they've been professional in how Argentina has done it. They don't always play the best of football, but they're professional. They get the result, and they won a World Cup doing that. And they also, in the World Cup, they're also able to turn it on in certain moments and play very, very good football. Like the first 70 minutes against France. That was brilliant football played from Argentina. But the certain times that they've been dull, you know, like that Mexico game, they were very, very dull. And it didn't look like there was going to be a goal coming from Argentina in that Mexico game. But a moment of magic from Messi came and they were able. But in general, there's certain times that they don't look like they're scoring, but Messi comes up with an individual moment of magic that opens up. So there's just that perfect balance with this Argentina team. And I don't think they're any worse from that World Cup winning team. So they're definitely, you know, the big favorites in this game with Canada. Now, Canada is an interesting team in the fact that they're coming in. Well, they're coming in on a good result, finishing 0-0 against France in France. That's a very good result coming out of France with the result, avoiding a loss and not keeping a clean sheet against that talented group with the French national team, who's playing a full lineup, by the way, not some makeshift B team. This is a full-fledged French national team. So, in my opinion, brilliant. That's a brilliant result for them. Now, they did come off before that. They did get dumped by the Netherlands 4-0 in a game that they also had their opportunities. It kind of went back and forth, but Netherlands were more clinical with the more quality that they have. But this is a Canada team that it has quality with the Jonathan David and Alphonso Davies. They have pace. They can threaten this Argentina team in behind. I think they could. The way that Jesse Marsch plays, the Gagan style of pressing, high intensity, heavy metal football. I think that matches well with Argentina, playing against Argentina. When you look at what Saudi Arabia was able to do to Argentina in that opening game of the World Cup, I think Canada can pull off something of that similar. They're gonna have to play a high. They're gonna play a high line, Canada, because that's what Jesse Marsch likes to do. But they're gonna have to be intense in their pressing, and be very aggressive in winning second balls and winning the ball in midfield, and really pressing and not being afraid to, be like, to press these Argentina players and to really get in their faces. And if they're willing to go toe-to-toe, they could really rattle this Argentina team, because that Argentina team was rattled against Saudi Arabia. And I think this Canada team has more quality than that Saudi Arabian team that was able to rattle that Argentina team and get that result. I think this Canada team is more talented. So I really think this Canada team has more than just a shot to pull off this upset. I really do, because of the fact that I like the way how their style of play matches up well against Argentina, and the fact that they have quality and pace that can really threaten this Argentina backline and behind. When you look at the likes of Otamendi, Romero, this is a center-back partnership, in my opinion. It could be had. They're not the best center-back partnership. They defend well in general as a team, but individually, that center-back partnership, I think Romero, he's solid, and then Otamendi, he's decent, but he's old, and he can be had. So obviously Argentina are the favorites here, no doubt about it. But Canada definitely have a chance. And Jesse Marsch, whenever he was talking about the game in his post-game presser, he was talking about how he wants his team to be fearless, which I think is very, very important, which goes a lot to what I was saying about them not being scared to, play them head on and press them high up the field, to not fear. That's going to be very, very important, because if they do play with the fear, if they do hesitate to press them, and they give them time and space in midfield, and they still play the high line that Jesse Marsch likes playing, and they give the likes of Rodrigo De Paul, McAllister, and Paredes time to pick out passes in behind with that high line, going up against potentially an Alvarez or Martinez with the pace that they have, or even a Garnacho, man, that could be very, very concerning. So if they are going to play that high line that, Jesse Marsch is famous for playing, then the fearless approach is very necessary. I'm going to go with a 2-0 win for Argentina. I think this is a little bit too far of a step for Canada to get, to take. But I do think Canada is will be competitive in this game. I think they'll give Argentina a run for their money. And I do think Canada is still the second best team in this group, despite all the issues that they've had with the federation over the past few years. I still think they're a better team overall than Peru and Chile. So I expect them to get out of the group. I just don't think they'll get a result at the opening game. But again, I will not be surprised if they do end up getting the results because of the way that they play. And I think that matches up well against the Argentina national team. We saw Saudi Arabia have success with that similar formula style of play with less talented players, in my opinion. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to Scotland and Switzerland finishing with a draw.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we previewed Argentina versus Canada. We move on to discuss the Scotland and Switzerland game finishing in a 1-1 draw. In my opinion, another brilliant game at this European Championship. Very good football, back and forth in my opinion. I thought both teams were deserving of a point. I think both teams played one hell of a game. I think both teams created multiple opportunities that really could have given them the lead, especially near the end. You look at the Grant Hanley's header. Also, this was a Switzerland player that also had a free header near the end on a set-piece opportunity. But in my opinion, I think 1-1 draw result was a little bit fair. In the first half, Switzerland were able to be a little bit more of the protagonist in terms of possession. I believe there was a period that they had almost more than 70% possession. But Scotland, they slowly built themselves back into the game. Now, Scotland were really deadly in transition. In that first half, they created a few opportunities in transition. They took advantage one, and also it was a much better start from Scotland. They looked a little bit more into it in the game from the beginning, just based on that Germany game. Scotland really struggled to get any sort of, the ball in the other half against Germany. Just really suffered. They won a corner in this game in the first minute, and so it showed the level of difference in terms of belief that they had in going forward. They were willing to put men forward, and it was beautiful to watch the fluidity to their attack. I thought they were able in transition through Robertson and his ability to push the ball forward, push the ball up the field. They were able to get the goal, to give them the lead 12th minute in, and it couldn't have been a better start from Scotland, because now that they get the goal, they can be defensively very, very strong, and they can play through that, and it was just the perfect start from them. Now the thing, if you're for a Scotland fan, you come out of this game with a 1-1, but the two things that will massively disappoint you in this reason why you didn't get 3 points is, number one, the goal that they gave away, which was a defensive mistake, from Ralston. I believe it was Ralston, just playing a back pass, not really looking, and playing it right into Shaqiri's pass, who scored an absolutely wonder goal. We'll describe that. I'll just go break down that goal specifically a little bit later on. But wonder goal. So that, and the fact that it was a self-inflicted mistake, that's something that Scottish fans will feel really unfortunate about. And also the second thing is they had a chance to win it at the end. Grant Hanley hits the post on an amazing ball swung in by Robertson on the set-piece opportunity. It goes 2 inches to the right, 2 inches on the right side of the post. and Scotland are, getting out of that game with 3 big points, because they're probably going into that Hungary game only needing 1 point now to move on. Now they have to go into that Hungary game to win to even have a chance. But, they still took it to the final day. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, is that you're able, in these tournaments, you gotta have a chance in that final day. And Scotland gave them that chance today by getting out of that game with the result. Now I want to speak about that goal. What a brilliant goal. What an absolutely phenomenal goal. Now, Showdown Shaqiri, one of the main, the main guy for Switzerland over the past few years or so, really been their talisman. Now he's playing at MLS Chicago Fire, so we're in the winding years of his career. It's clear in regards to that, but Showdown Shaqiri, he's always been a brilliant player, and it's interesting in the fact that he didn't actually start in that first game against Hungary. So, and they played really well, and they really dominated that game against Hungary, and they played really well in my opinion. He brings Murat Yakin, brings him back into the squad in this game against Switzerland. He bring him in. They go with a little bit more of a different formation, going more with 2 up top, and they play Shaqiri right behind them. And Shaqiri pays him off by scoring an absolute wonder goal, because what a brilliant strike that was. I mean, yes, it was gifted by Ralston playing in that ball in behind, but I mean, the way he makes that run, he just has one look at the goal. Keep in mind, he's running towards the left, and his momentum is taking him away from the goal, so he's having to curl it, running away from the goal. He takes one quick little peek up to the left and just curls it, and I mean, you couldn't hand that ball and place it any more tighter up into that upper 90 than what Showdown Shaqiri played it. And he didn't even get to look while he was taking the strike. He took one quick glance to see where the goal was, then he puts his head down and he just goes right through the ball and buries it. I can't put into words how amazing of a finish it was. And it's one of those plays where you're watching it and you're like, oh no, bad turnover by Scotland. Oh, surely he's not gonna. Oh my God, did he just? What in the world? It was that kind of finish. I was just like, wow, just an absolute banger of a goal, banger of a player. Showdown Shaqiri. If you know Showdown Shaqiri, he lives for these world-class goals at these tournaments, at these European Championships, at this World Cup. He's always coming up big for Switzerland. He's always coming up clutch for Switzerland, because that's what he is. He's a big-time player, and he's not afraid in these big-time moments. Came up with another big-time goal to equalize for Switzerland. And yeah, in that second half, both teams had their opportunities to take the lead. It was going back and forth. That I talked about, that header that went off the post. There was also another header that the Swiss had, a free header that I forgot who the player was, but honestly, I thought it was a really poor header. He should have really done better. They had their opportunities, both of the teams. And I think 1-1 actually ended up being the fair result. And I said again, the massive thing for Scotland was to keep themselves alive all the way up to that match day 3. Now you're not gonna Switzerland are on 4 points, but they have a +2 goal differential, and Scotland have a -4. So even if Hungary are able to win and Switzerland are gonna lose, are they gonna be able to swing that 6 goal differential? No, because Scotland, they're not a team that will be able to bag 3-4 goals on a team. They just don't have that kind of personnel up front, that kind of quality, in my opinion, to be able to really put the thumping on Hungary. If they can, I think that's a 50-50 game, honestly, in my opinion. I think it's a flip of the coin to see who's favorite in that game. But I think third place is definitely on, in the fact that even despite the bad goal differential, I think if Scotland are able to win that final game against Hungary, I think 4 points will be enough to get you through. I do, because, now if you have 3 points, if you're a third place team and you have 3 points, okay, then you're going to have to rely on, your goal differential is going to be very, very important. But, chances are more likely than not, you never know till the end. You're not going to know. But more than likely not, there's not going to be 4 third place teams that have 4 points. So I think having 4 points will get you through more likely than not. Obviously, there could be an anomaly, and there can be like 5 teams that have 4 points, and then in that point, goal differential is going to be very important, which will not side with Scotland because of that 5-1 thumping. But more chances than not, if Scotland are able to defeat Hungary, I think they will be getting through and moving on to the next round. So that will be the mission for Scotland, obviously. Win and you're in. That has to be the mentality. Nothing less than a win. Obviously, if they do anything less than win, they're done. But win and then just hope. They need that. Few teams to finish with 3 points, which I really see that happening. As far as Switzerland, they get a point. They came off a very impressive performance in game 1. And I thought in this game also they were pretty good. I mean, they weren't bad in this game, not necessarily. I think Scotland is actually just a better team than what they showed us in that game 1. I think this is a little bit of a slip and a little bit of a missed opportunity for Switzerland, because you're looking at it, you want to be able to go into that Germany game battling to win the group. And to be honest, though, at the same time, I don't think a draw is the biggest loss for them, because no matter if they drew or win this game 2-1, they'll still be level on points with Germany, and a draw would not have been enough in that final game, no matter what, because of the goal differential Germany because of the way that they defeated Scotland 5-1. No matter if Switzerland won or drew this game, they needed to enter that Germany game with a win to win that group. So that's the mentality for Switzerland. They have to go into that game playing to win. I don't think they should really be conservative at all, because there's no you're not gonna drop out of the top 2, the 6. You're not gonna lose so bad that you're gonna cover a 6-goal swing between you and Scotland. So I definitely think they should go into that game with the mentality win, because winning the group, it could be very important in building some sort of pathway to make the tournament to run any sort of run that Germany or Switzerland are trying to make very easier. I think winning the group is actually very important, that people are starting to sleep on it nowadays. But it's an interesting dilemma that these teams in this group find themselves in. Short break here coming up. When we come back, I'm gonna give y'all my full Copa America preview. It's gonna be interesting.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we discussed the Scotland and Switzerland game finishing with a draw. We now move on to this for me to give y'all my full Copa America preview, because I talked about earlier the Argentina Canada opening game tomorrow. The Copa America kicks off tomorrow. This is an exciting Copa America, and the fact that it's North and South America combined. We have 16 teams in a big competition going all across the U.S. So obviously, huge tournament coming up. Now I'm gonna just give y'all my thoughts on. I don't know how I want to do this, honestly. Okay, I'm gonna give y'all my top scorer, my player of the tournament, the team I think is gonna win the Copa America. So my Copa America champions, my player of the tournament, my team of the tournament, my golden boot, and goalkeeper of the tournament. I'm going to start off with least to most important. So obviously the goalkeeper of the tournament, I'm going to give it to Emiliano Martinez. I think they're going to, Argentina are going to have a lot of clean sheets because of how they defend as a unit. And Emiliano Martinez is a very, very good goalkeeper in general. Don't see him conceding much goals at this Copa, I keep saying European Championships, at this Copa America. I think Alisson is also a contender, but Brazil's defense is a little bit weaker, and I think they can leak some goals, especially earlier on, because I think they're going to play really open against some of the worst teams, and I think that'll leave them space. I think when Brazil go up against some of the better teams, they'll naturally be a little bit more defensive, and I think that's going to, that's going to give them a good shot. But yeah, I think, in my opinion, Emiliano Martinez going to win that goalkeeper player of the tournament. I think my Copa America player of the tournament, no, I'm going to go with my top goal scorer of the tournament. I think, I'm going to go with Luis Diaz of Colombia. I think Luis Diaz is a brilliant player. He's a very, very talented player. He has the capacity to score plenty of goals, has talent. He's so direct and has such ability on the ball in terms of playing in tight spaces, having that sort of flair, just extreme talent. And let's be honest, he's Colombia's main hope in terms of the attack. He's going to be, the main guy responsible, not just scoring goals for this Colombian national team, but also providing assists too and creating for his teammates with space that he can create by beating somebody one-on-one and then bringing a defender over and taking that space and then passing it around to somebody. He gives you a little bit of everything, and I think he's very, very important for this Colombian team. And this is a Colombian team that's very, very hot. They've been on a long unbeaten run. They play some excellent high fluid football, high intensity football, and they're going to create a lot of chances. And when they create a lot of chances, the main guy up top, he's going to get a lot of goals. And I think this is a chance for not his breakout tournament. He is 28 years old, so it's not really a breakout, but a chance that he really announces himself on that international scene, because this is the first time we're really seeing him at an international tournament, a big international tournament. He did play in the previous Copa America, which is a big international tournament. This is a little bit bigger in the fact that it's North America, South America combined, and it's on a bigger stage in my opinion. So I think Luis Diaz will be top scorer. I think Copa America player of the tournament, I think Copa America player of the tournament is going to be, this is a tricky one because there's a lot of good options, and I'm going to have to go with the team that I want to win, but the team that I'm going to choose to win the tournament. I want to go, there's a lot of good options there. There's a Messi, obviously. There's a Vinicius. There's a Darwin Nunez, Luis Diaz of Colombia are able to win it. A lot of different directions you can go with this. You have potentially even like a guy like Christian Pulisic, but I don't think the U.S. will go far enough to win, for him to win this award. I'm going to go with Federico Valverde. I think he's a brilliant player, and I think he is the main conductor of this Uruguay national team. I think he's the best player on this Uruguay national team. Now, I think Darwin Nunez will be the most important because the pace of up top, his importance in terms of scoring goals for this Uruguay national team, he will be the most important player, and I think he'll be the highest goal scorer for this Uruguay national team. But in terms of Federico Valverde, the flexibility he has to play so many different roles for Uruguay, so many different things he's going to do. I think he's going to be the capacity he has to run into the box to score goals, his work rate to defend, to help the Uruguayan back line, the pressing that he provides in this Marcelo Bielsa system. I think he's going to be a perfect player. I think he's going to be all over the pitch just because of the way how Bielsa plays, and I think he's going to have his stamp on a lot of things Uruguay does in terms of going forward, in terms of defensively. I think he's really going to be such an important player. And I think a lot of people are going to see the value he brings in this tournament for Uruguay. And I think they're going to give him the player of the tournament because, in my opinion, he is the best player Uruguay has, which is a brilliant best player. So, again, and then, then that's why I have Uruguay winning this tournament. I don't have Argentina actually winning this Copa America. I think Argentina is a good team and they're the best team at this Copa America, but I think eventually, they will be had by someone. Someone is going to take advantage of Argentina. You saw they showed a little bit of their weaknesses when they lost to Uruguay at home in Argentina. They lost to them in World Cup qualifying, so they showed that they could be had sometimes. Sometimes they just look a little lackluster in the attack, and defensively they could get caught out in transition if they're not playing that, tight block that Argentina naturally always play under Lionel Scaloni. I think Marcelo Bielsa, in his ways of being a brilliant manager in terms of their high intensity football, a lot of miles or a lot of kilometers that they're going to cover throughout the tournament just because of the style of play that they have. I think they're a really, really deadly team. And yeah, Argentina obviously will be the same favorite. For me, I don't see this Brazil team winning Copa America, in the fact that they're just defensively, they're leaking goals in bad areas of the pitch, and then going forward, if you get the Vinicius and Rodrigo that you get at Real Madrid, if you get that at Brazil, and mostly talking about Vinicius, honestly, because he's had 30 caps for Brazil and only scored 3 goals. That's horrible when you see the form that he has for for Real Madrid. If Brazil is able to get that kind of Vinicius Jr., okay, that makes them a team that's very deadly in transition. That makes them a huge outfit. But they don't get that Vinicius Jr. The Vinicius Jr. that shows up for Brazil is it's very poor, and I think the pressure of the Brazil jersey is just maybe too much for him, which is why I always give Neymar the credit he deserves. Because from the Neymar, as soon as Neymar came onto the scene, the pressure of the Brazil national team badge never seemed unbearable from Neymar from minute get-go. If you saw the pressure that he was under at the 2013 Confederation Cup, the 2014 World Cup hosting it, and he always rose up for Brazil, especially in his young days. Vinicius does not give us that at all whatsoever, and in fact his performances are way worse for Brazil than what he is naturally as a player. So yeah, I have to say I'm massively concerned for this Brazil team. I think the midfield is not as it's very solid in that it's a Premier League midfield, but defensively I think they could be had. You're looking at potentially Jan Couto, Danilo fullbacks, and then Marquinhos and Marquinhos that's not on good form, and a Gabriel Magalhaes, probably or Bremer at center backs. It's just defensively this team could be had too, especially if they want to play the normal Brazil style of play of attacking football, being so open-ended. You leave that back line very vulnerable. So for me, I don't see how Brazil can win this Copa America. I hope to be wrong. And then again, there's also the Dorval Jr. factor, and we don't really know how good of a manager he could be for Brazil. He's admittedly came in and the results have gotten better under him. Defeating England, drawing against Spain, and that's some pretty good results. But overall, it's looked a little lackluster. I mean, a Brazil national team never draws with the U.S. ever. A Brazil national team will never ever draw against the U.S. Let's just get that out of the way. And that was a U.S. team that was reeling after getting 5-1 against Colombia. So yeah, I think major concern for Brazil. Now for me, I want to talk about my potential player, not player of the tournament, but this is not really a set question, when you're really doing this Copa America preview, but we are, in the U.S., so we do have to discuss the U.S. men's national team, and I want to discuss how far do I think they'll go at this Copa America. Look, I think they'll do what we expect them to do. They'll defeat Bolivia and Panama just because of the vast array of talent that we have. And then against Uruguay, I don't think we're gonna do enough to win the group. Whether we lose that game or draw, and and the goal differential be against us, we'll probably lose the game. And even if we draw, I don't think we'll be able to have a superior goal differential to Uruguay, and based on how we perform against Bolivia and Panama compared to how they perform against Bolivia and Panama. So whatever happens, I see us losing the group. And even if we're able to, if we're able to win the group and beat Uruguay in the process, okay, then, we could be cooking something in that first game in the round of 16. But I don't see that happening under Greg Berhalter, because Berhalter's not a good manager, and he's never been a quality of a manager that makes a team better than the sum of their parts. I think we'll do just what we're expected to do. We'll get past Bolivia and Panama in a very unimpressive fashion, and then we're gonna play against Uruguay, and we're gonna have a few moments of show good, but we're ultimately not gonna do enough. And then we're gonna take on either Brazil and Colombia in the round of 16 and get comfortably outclassed. I don't think we'll get 5-1 or anything, just like we did, that game in DC a week or so ago by Colombia. But we're definitely not gonna move on past the round of 16 if we take on Brazil or Colombia. So yeah, I think round of 16 and one and done for the U.S. men's national team. It is what it is. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we're gonna talk about Croatia and their European Championships being on the brink after a disappointing result against Albania. Before the break, we discussed the Copa America, gave a full preview. We move on back to the European Championship, where we discuss oh man, I can't speak today. Where we discuss Croatia dropping all 3 points at the end in a last-minute equalizer to Albania as they finish only with 1 point in that game. They only have 1 point so far to this group. So we gotta discuss, are their European Championships over? Look, in terms of this game, real quick, wow, really, really bad first half from Croatia. I mean, really, I can't put into words how disgusting and frustrating of a half that was for a Croatian national team. They just really got outplayed by a very much weaker team, in my opinion. Albania is a strong team, don't get me wrong, in terms of, there's no weak teams at these European Championships. But in that performance, I just got a bad cramp. In that performance, though, from Croatia in that first half, really, really weak performance, in my opinion. Just disgusting performance from them. They really should have been down almost 3-0. They just really got outplayed. There was many chances that Albania had throughout that first half, but Albania were not able. They didn't really have the quality to make Croatia play. They really lacked that finishing touch, and that kept Croatia alive in the game. And in the second half, they really turned it back on, and it looked like a dominant Croatia team that we really seen, that we've seen at the last previous international tournaments. Just really, really good performance in that second half. and then they're able to equalize, and then they quickly, within minutes later, are able to get a second to take the lead, and we're just like, wow, Croatia, they just done it again. In those tight moments that they need to save their tournament, they pull it off yet again, but then they just take their back foot off. They played very, very good in terms of playing, attacking, and really going after the game, and they take the lead, and then suddenly they let Albania get control again and be the main protagonists, and Albania started to generate more opportunities within the last 10 minutes, and I'm just like, what in the world? This is so un-Croatia-like. Croatia has always been a professional team, and that was an unprofessional performance in the last 10 games. And how I've seen Croatia and how they're able to see our results, we did not see that. And let's face it, this Croatia team is not going to go far because they're just very weak defensively. This is not the same Croatian team as previous. Now, he made the change that I fully expected him to do and go with the Guardiola as the center back partnership next to Sutalo. And, he made it a little bit better. It wasn't always open in between the center backs. But just in general, as a team-wise, defensively, they just conceded way too many chances. And they were really just too much pressure was being put on them. And, eventually Albania was able to make them pay in the final minute. And, it's a fair result for Albania. They deserved at least a point, especially based on how they performed in that first half. They deserved at least a point. And, it's a bad result for Croatia, in my opinion, dropping points to Albania, losing that first game 3-0, because now you're putting yourself in a position where you have to go to Albania against the Italy national team, win the game, and that might not be enough. Now, chances are more likely than not, it's the same with the Scotland situation with the third place teams. A win will probably be enough, but it still makes it very interesting. And also Albania are also in the same position where if they can beat Spain in that final group stage game, and that could get tricky with, who knows, Spain might be resting in that final game. If they win that game, they also have a chance to finish third place. And they also have, let's say, they finish with 4 points and Croatia finish with 4 points. They'll have the superior goal differential over Croatia more likely than not, unless, because based on how the goal differential is right now, it could always change. Maybe Croatia dump Italy or something of that sort. But, Croatia find themselves in a really difficult position at these European Championships to move on to the knockout stage. And let's say if they're able to scrape into the knockout stage games with how open they are, the amount of chances they concede, how open they can be defensively, any team will be licking their chops. Any attack will be fancying their opportunities going up against Croatia because they just conceded way too many opportunities. And defensively, they're very, very weak in individual battles. Defensively, they make a lot of mistakes. And the way that they were completely dominated and outclassed by Albania in the first half, I think any team that's good enough to reach the knockout stage game are going to, take advantage of the dominance Albania was able to have in that first half with goals. And I think it'll be similar outfit to that Croatia-Spain first half, just how weak they are defensively. So is this European Championship over for Croatia? Not necessarily, because they're still mathematically alive and they only really need a win, and they're more likely than not through to the knockout stage games, depending on how the third place things fall in their favor. But based on these performances that we have seen, even if they get through, are they seriously a major contributor at this European Championship? So I'm gonna ask the question: is the European Championships over after dropping points to Albania? No, it is not over. It's on life support. It really is. It's on life support, and they could be in trouble. And they've been in this situation, by the way, at the last European Championship. They entered the final group stage game only with the point after losing to England in the opening game and drawing with Czech Republic. They went into that final game against Scotland only with the point, and they needed to win that game to move on as a third place team out of that group. They ended up winning that game. You had a captain's performance by Luka Modric, who scored a wonder goal, and they ended up winning that game 2-1 to move on to the knockout stage. But it took that sort of, performance. And this is, by the way, this is going to be going up against an Italian national team, which is much better than what that Scotland team presented on that day. And also this Italian national team, who knows, who knows? Now, they could be resting based on, whatever happens with the Spain game tomorrow. But they could also be in a position where they're having to chase a result in that Croatia game. So their European championships are definitely on life support. So the European championships are not over, but it's on life support. Now, is this Croatia team a legit contender to make a run, like a run that we've seen this Croatia team do in the past few World Cups? No, I don't see that happening because they're just too weak defensively and they give up too many chances. They give up way too many clear-cut chances, in a team that has any sort of potent attack, kind of like what Spain was able to do, is able to take advantage of them. And I'm pretty sure that's what Italy are gonna do to them in that game, in that final game. So I think, yeah, Croatia's European Championships might be over very, very soon. Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sport Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.